Hey there. I want to talk to you for a minute about, I guess you could say, what it means to be blessed. The interesting thing about being blessed, it's really not something you could technically describe to somebody. Like you could see a person's surroundings, like they have a nice home or a nice car, something like that, or even a healthy body, and you can decipher sometimes that they're blessed, but that might not always be the case, even when it comes to outward appearances. They could have all that, what I just mentioned, and not be blessed. But I think I'm going to go a little bit more in depth of what it means to be blessed. I'll do that at another time. But you can definitely have the experience. And technically, once you have the experience, it'll never go away. And that is the experience of being blessed. You may have heard, as have I, that biological experts, scientists, or what have you, physical science experts, have said that every 7 years, uh, max, the human body has renewed itself, meaning every cell in the human body has died to have been replaced by another cell. Um There have been studies that say that it's less than 7 years, but I think, as far as I can recall, my personal um, studying or research, or whatever you want to call it, looking this subject matter up, the max that I've seen was every 7 years, the body is renewed. So 7 years ago, or less, you didn't have the same eyeballs. You did not have the same nose, ears, feet, what have you. We all know we didn't have the same hair. I mean, we're constantly getting haircuts and whatnot. But anyway, I don't want to get off the point, but you get the point. However, there's something, although the body has been dying off and renewing itself at a cellular level, depending on how old you are, you can decipher how many times you've been renewed. Like if you're 7 years old, you've been renewed once, and who knows as far as kids go because they're growing. They grow until, I guess, into their 20s, but every 14 years you can say you've been renewed twice. 21 years of age, you've been renewed three times, and so on and so forth. So you can do the math and calculate how many times you've been renewed. And when you're coming up to that next numerical value, that seventh, that multiplies times seven, when you reach that age, you're at another state of renewal physically. But here's something interesting. There's something that's always been the same within the body. There's something that's always been the same. You can call it a presence, which is what it is, a force, a power that's actually doing the renewing. And that particular presence hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. And it's constantly renewing you at the physical level. Here's something to consider, And hopefully you'll take this pretty seriously, take it to heart. What if, what if you decided to start cleansing your consciousness? Because when this physical renewal is taking place, physical maladies, like if people that have chronic diseases or long term illnesses or physical maladies, those conditions are being renewed because there's some manner of programming telling the presence to renew that malady and make the malady stay, even though the body has been renewed 7 years ago. And depending on how old you are, the malady keeps getting renewed because there's some sort of program, again, that's telling this presence to renew it. And whatever this program is, I believe it to be something sinister and unnatural. But because the presence is being told to renew that malady, I guess in a way you can say it has no choice. So, what's telling that the presence to renew a malady, a physical ailment, or what have you? The program. It's a belief, an idea of the malady that we are somehow clinging to. But what if we were to start a program of conscious cleansing, cleansing your consciousness, consciousness cleansing? And as a result, what consciousness cleansing does is wash away erroneous beliefs and ideas, beliefs that have the idea of a malady or a sickness or even a depressed or fearful mindset. What if you start consciousness cleansing and you washed away from your consciousness those erroneous, nefarious beliefs and ideas? Keep in mind that all the while, your body is constantly being renewed by the presence, by the power. And what if those programs or those erroneous beliefs of the maladies or what have you weren't there anymore? Of the irrational mindsets, what if those programs weren't there anymore because you washed them away with consciousness cleansing? What would the power, what would the presence do to your body as far as the renewal goes? How would that affect you? Even your mind. You started a program of consciousness cleansing, and the presence, as it does, it heals, it renews, and it started also renewing your mind. And at some point, your mind became renewed, your body became truly renewed, no irrational fear, no more emotional turmoil, no anxiety. You had a state of perpetual joy, bliss, radiant health. Is that really possible with consciousness cleansing? Tell you what, only one way to find out, huh? One thing you can do, consider this premise, what I've just told you about consciousness cleansing and how the presence that's constantly renewing your body What if it had the perfect blueprint from God's original plan that he made us in his image and after his likeness? What if the presence and the power was working from that blueprint as opposed to the blueprint that was installed in your mind by the world that believes in sickness, hatred, and so forth, that believes it has to be afraid and upset because being scared and upset helps us to keep our guard up? No, it doesn't. It distracts you. Fear is actually a deterrent. And as Job said, the thing I feared has come upon me. It can attract what you think you got your guard up for. It can bring it right to your doorstep, knocking at your door. I know that's true because I had a personal experience just like Job. Anyway, but think about that. Consciousness cleansing. I know we like to insert religious ideas and say, well, I got to pray and do this and do that. But what platform are you praying from? And, you know, you got to understand where you stand before you pray. You really, truly got to understand where you are in your spirit life because you might be being completely unrealistic when you pray for better things and better days because you have a dingy consciousness. And praying isn't something that can necessarily cleanse your consciousness. You can pray to find a way, I suppose, but if you have a dingy consciousness, it will serve as a great impairment to your prayer. I mean, you've heard of the crab in a bucket syndrome, but oftentimes, y'all hear that dog, huh? He's interjecting his opinion. I mean, you can pray for whatever you want, but oftentimes it's like the whole crab in a bucket syndrome, or worse, the crab in a barrel. I mean, you've heard about crabs in a barrel, in a bucket. Imagine you being a crab, one of many crabs in a bucket, and you pray to get out of that bucket. You ask the other crabs in the bucket to help to pray for you to get out of that bucket. And it's okay. Well, yes, we will pray for you. And then they turn around and ask you to pray for them to get out of that bucket. An idea to climb out of that bucket comes to you and you start climbing. But as you climb, you realize you have to step on other crabs to get out. You have to use other people to get what you want. That doesn't work out so well because you know what crabs do? They pull you back down. But I tell you what, in this day and age, humanity's situation is much worse than the crab in a bucket scenario. It's more like crabs in a barrel. Now imagine 100 crabs in a barrel. A barrel is about maybe 3-4 foot tall or something like that. Throw 100 crabs in there and they're stuck. They because the walls are too high. I mean, even if they step on other crabs to try to get out, the walls are still too high. They just cannot get out. One crab might tell the other, hey, pray for me to get out of this barrel. But it will all be in vain. None of them are getting out because of the condition of the barrel being as tall and as wide as it is. So, what'll happen is that before they go to the market and eventually get boiled alive, they'll get used to the barrel and call it home. And they'll start praying for better days because obviously it would be a condition of misery stuck in a barrel with all those crabs and nowhere to go. They'll pray for better days. They'll ask their fellow crabs to pray for them. They'll pray for their fellow crabs, but it will be all for naught because we know what their true fate will be, whether they pray or not. And humanity is kind of in a pickle like that. And this is why consciousness cleansing is so important. It's very important. It's the key to spiritual awakening. It's the key of entering into the kingdom of heaven that the Messiah talked about. We have to understand that we need to start working on ourselves spiritually. And consciousness cleansing is the way. And if you want some powerful suggestions and ideas on how to start and where to start, The Power of Spiritology by Dario Thomas. It'll show you exactly what you need to do to start cleansing your consciousness. It's a how-to book, amongst other things, a self-help book in many ways, and consciousness cleansing is one of them. Effective prayer is another. There are other ways too, but you get the point. So get the book, The Power of Spiritology by Dario Thomas. It is on sale at Amazon.com. Subscribe to this channel, the Spiritology Television Network. If you know somebody that can truly benefit from this material, the subject matter that I talk about, I talk about this manner of subject matter. I talk about the Bible, revealing Bible secrets and mysteries, esoteric spiritual meanings behind certain passages and stories in the Bible, even out of this world stuff like angels and aliens and that kind of thing, whether or not it's possible that they exist. You'll get a lot of things here as it pertains to spiritual matters, mental and spiritual matters. So, again, subscribe, recommend that somebody subscribes. Get the book, The Power of Spiritology by Dario Thomas at Amazon.com. It's on sale. Thank you for listening. God bless.